I teach social studies at East Village High School, which is in downtown San Diego. We're majority free and reduced lunch, or excuse me, a majority of my students are free and reduced lunch, and they are also Latino, and I'm here to bear witness to the fact that the virus is ripping through my students' communities. There seems to be this implication that teachers don't care about kids because we question the wisdom of risking our lives and our students' lives to return to in-person instruction. But when we look at state data, we see that more than 19,000 California Latinos have died of COVID-19, and that's far more than any other race or ethnic group. Latinos only make up 39% of the state population, and they account for 46% of all COVID deaths. It's important that we keep underlining the point that COVID-19, it's not an equal opportunity killer. And keep in mind that data that I'm citing is with schools mostly closed. I know that we hear so many statistics throughout the pandemic, but I'm not sure that we understand really how the disease is affecting kids' lives. Every other week, I hear about an entire household has all tested positive for COVID. I hear from fearful students. They're unable to quarantine away from sick individuals at home because there's just simply not enough rooms available. I don't think the public necessarily understands just how many families can live in a household or an apartment. And so the stats really represent real people's loved ones. So just last week, I want to tell a story about a 16-year-old who texted me, "I want to tell you something." And under normal circumstances, that's, oh, it could be exciting, could be like, a college, I got admitted to a college. But in this case, I wasn't exciting, and I knew immediately something was probably wrong. So I called him, and he tells me over sobs that his 55-year-old grandfather passed away from COVID-19 over the weekend, that he became infected sometime in January. It attacked his grandpa's lungs so severely that he was on a ventilator for 3 weeks. And all 8 people that lived in his multi-generational household contracted the virus. And it really makes me wonder, put things in perspective, how many other deaths have happened in my students' lives that they don't feel comfortable telling me about. This one student did. What kind of trauma are my kids living with? And just going back to that one student, my student said his grandfather's death made him think about all the moments that he wouldn't share with his abuelo, including seeing this kid be the first in his family to graduate from high school. What am I as a teacher supposed to tell a kid that asks, why are we opening things back up right now? I told him I didn't know. I have some ideas, but I told him I didn't know. I said he needs to grieve and that he needs to take care of himself. And I told him that I'd inform his teachers, the principal, because the adults can do the heavy lifting of changing his assignments, changing his schedule. But I'm still struggling with the emotional impact here of kids coming to their teachers with lots of stories of death. And this happened, again, while our schools were closed. And the rates here in San Diego County are still 4 times the purple baseline. We keep hearing so much about students' mental health, and students' mental health is super important, but I don't even know if schools definitely didn't have the resources before the pandemic to deal with mental health challenges. And I'm not sure how we're even going to begin to deal with the amount of trauma that kids are going to experience if just COVID rips through or continues to rip through their homes because they get it in a classroom and take it home to their families. So for now, the CDC says that the variants of concern, and I'm just quoting from an NPR report that just came out right before this press conference, the variants of concern require more study, and it warns that if the variants begin driving community spread, updates to this guidance may be necessary. But I just want to underline, kids are not experiments. It's heartbreaking that families have to try to make this decision between remaining online or their kids may be falling behind. But what's more heartbreaking is to see the pain and suffering of those who've been directly impacted in their homes by COVID-19. And so I just want to underline that I care about my kids' health, and the cycle of opening and closing that we've seen in some schools is really going to promote fear, and it's going to be disruptive to their education. We really kind of, at the beginning of this pandemic, we ignored the misery of as the coronavirus ravaged other countries, Italy in particular. And we've also seen what happened in Britain with B117 as it overtook their ICUs. And they closed their schools. So I just want to point that out, that their schools still remain closed to this day.